Hello and welcome to part 61. In this video, we will learn more about partial class. In the last video, we have understood how we can create partial class and we have understood some of the basic concepts around it. And we have seen how we can split our long classes into multiple physical class files to maintain our code more efficiently. In this video, we will understand the rules that we need to follow when working with partial classes. The point number one is all the parts spread across different files must use partial keyword. It means if we want to create a class as partial, then all the parts of that class should be partial. Let's go to Visual Studio and understand this. Okay, so if you're trying to create a partial class, let me create a partial class. I will select add and select the class here and I will give employee. And let me change it to partial class. And if I try to add one more class file, so I have the class employee2.cs. Let me change it to employee. And this time I will create it as a normal class. So what we have done in this case, we have two class files. One is having employee with partial keyword. The second one is having the employee class, but it is not mentioning it as partial. This is not allowed in C# and it will throw us the compilation error. If you read the error message here, it will say missing partial modifier on the declaration type employee. Another partial declaration of this type exists because employee class is already marked as partial in this employee.cs class. So every file that is having employee class, that should also be marked as partial. Else we will receive the compilation error. That to mark it as partial and you will notice the error is gone now. Second point to notice here is all the parts spread across different files must have the same access modifiers. So I have two class files. One is employee.cs and one is employee2.cs. And if I try to change the access modifier here, let me call it internal. You will notice we are getting the compilation error. It will say partial declaration of employee have conflicting access modifier. Here the employee class is marked as public, but in other file it is marked as internal. All the class files should have the same access modifier. If I change my access modifier to internal here also, the error will go and you will be able to build your application without any issues. Right. So we must have the same access modifier for the partial classes. Third point here is if any of the parts are declared abstract, then the entire type is considered as abstract. Okay, so let's go to Visual Studio and understand this. Let me change it to public again. And now let's try to mark our class as abstract. So I have marked my class as abstract, right? And I have not marked my class as abstract here, but because this file is having the abstract keyword, this abstract keyword will automatically get applied to this class file also, meaning the whole employee class is an abstract class. We won't be able to create objects of it. And if I try to create an object of employee class, you can see we are receiving an error message here. Cannot create an instance of the abstract type because we have marked this file as abstract. The whole employee file will become abstract and it will behave as an abstract class. Next point is if any part of the declared sealed, then the entire type is considered as sealed. So let's remove the abstract keyword and let's put sealed keyword, right? And we know if a class is marked as sealed, then we cannot inherit that class. So we have added the sealed keyword only in our employee.cs class, but this sealed keyword will get automatically applied just like the abstract keyword. It will automatically applied to employee.cs class also. So if I try to inherit employee class, you will notice you will receive the compilation error saying demo cannot derive from field type employee. So this demo class cannot derive from employee class because it is marked as sealed class. Point number 5 is if any of the parts inherit a class, then the entire type inherits that class. Let's understand this in Visual Studio. Let me add one more class. I have added two properties, ID and name. And if I make my employee class to inherit base employee class, okay, so in my employee.cs class, I'm inheriting base employee class. So in my employee.cs file, I'm inheriting base employee class. And what will happen? This class will be automatically be inherited by this class file also. So in this class file, if I create a method ID, you can say ID is available to me, and you will notice I have the access to name property also. And if you hover over these properties, you will notice these are coming from the parent class, that is base employee class. And you will notice we are not inheriting the base employee class in this file, but because that is inherited in this particular class file, so that inheritance will follow through to this second file also. Okay, so this is how inheritance will work in partial classes. Okay, now the point number 6 is C# does not support multiple inheritance, that we already know. And different parts of the partial classes must not specify different base classes. Let's go to Visual Studio and let me create one more class. Okay, so now base employee 2 class is added. You notice here we have inherited base employee class here in employee.cs class. Let's try to inherit base employee 2 class in this different file. If I try to add one more class as parent class, and if I try to build this application, you will notice the build has failed because partial declaration of employee must not specify different base classes. We have specified base class as base employee here. In second file, we are inheriting from base employee 2 class, which is not allowed. In C#, one class can only inherit from one parent class. So different parts of the partial class must not specify different base classes. Point number 7 is different parts of the partial class can specify different base interfaces, and the final type implements all the interfaces listed by all the partial declaration. Okay. So what this point says, we can inherit from different interfaces, and when we will create the final object of that class, that object will have behavior from all other interfaces. Let's understand this. Let me remove base class for now. Let's create an interface. Okay, let's create one more interface by copying and pasting it again. Let me call it I2 and let's call P2 method here. Okay, so let's inherit I1 interface here. Okay, and let's inherit I2 interface in our second class file and try to build this application. You can see here build succeeds. So it basically proves we can have different interfaces in different class files. This class file is inheriting I1 interface and this class file is inheriting I2 interface. And let's suppose I remove the definition from P1 and P2. Now it is mandatory to provide the definition of P1 and P2. So let's provide the implementation. And let's implement I2 in this class. So now if you try to build the application will build successfully. And now let's try to create an object of employee class. You can notice here, I have the access to P2 method that is coming from the interface I2, and we have access to P1 method also that is coming from interface I1. So the final object will have behavior of both the interface, even though we have inherited those interfaces in different classes. Any member that are declared in a partial definition are available to all of the other parts of the partial class. What it means? It means if I have a member here, public integer, let's call it number. Okay, so this number field will be available in second file also. So if I go to employee class, you will notice I can access this dot number. So number is available to this class file also. So this is what this point says. Any member that are declared in a partial definition are available to all of the other parts of the partial class. So guys, these were some key points to remember when working with partial classes. In the next video, we will learn about partial methods.